The Midoriya household, once a quiet corner of Muzutafu, now held an extraordinary stillness, the kind that only follows a storm. Morning sunlight filtered through gauzy curtains, painting golden lines across the living room where 3 families lay scattered in peaceful slumber. Sleeping bags, quilts, and makeshift pillows sprawled across every surface, a chaotic but heartwarming mess. There were no boundaries between family and friend here, only unity. In the kitchen, soft sounds broke the silence. Steam rose from a pan. Bacon sizzled. Inko Midoriya, sleeves rolled up, was humming a soft tune while cracking eggs into a bowl. Beside her stood Mitsuki Bakuga, surprisingly calm, flipping pancakes like a seasoned pro. Across the island, a slightly more punk-styled third figure stirred a pot of miso soup, Kyotoku Jirou, Kyuka's mother, humming quietly in harmony with Inko. 3 mothers. 1 task. A breakfast feast for a house of warriors. Mitsuki said with a small smirk, who'd have thought this would be the trio running a kitchen one day. Kyotoku snorted. Honestly, I thought I'd be bailing Kyuka out of some rooftop concert gig, not watching her fight Nomu on the evening news. Inko smiled softly, but her voice was trembly. I'm just glad they're okay. At the kitchen table, the fathers sat, Bakuga's stoic dad Meizaru, the cool-headed rocker Kuzuke Jirou, and Inko's late-arriving brother Takuya Midoriya, who had come to check on the family. Newspapers lay opened, headlines screaming. USJ attacked by villains, students survive horrific raid. Nomu, a biological weapon. A reputation under fire. The TV hummed in the background, the volume low but clear. UA's official statement confirmed all students were rescued, thanks in part to the timely arrival of pro-heroes and the courageous efforts of multiple students, including 3 first-years whose actions helped protect their classmates. Upstairs, in Izuku's modest room, sunlight filtered through a cracked door, falling across posters of All Might, a framed flame hero, Endeavor print, and a few dusty rock band vinyl sleeves. Izuku sat on the floor, bandaged arms crossed, while Kyuka was curled near the foot of the bed, still half asleep. Bakuga lounged on the bed itself like it was his own room. Kyuka blinked groggily, then her eyes caught something beside the dresser. Wait, what's that? She muttered, suddenly wide awake. Izuku flinched. She pointed. Those are those guitars. Bakuga burst out laughing. Oh ho! The nerd's been hiding stuff. Izuku turned red as a beet, half standing and stumbling in front of his wardrobe. They're not hidden. They're just old. It's just a hobby, okay? Kyuka stood, limping a little on her healing ankle, moving closer. You play, Midoriya? You never told me. Just, like, in my room, he muttered. Nothing serious. She crouched in front of the electric one, eyes widening. The frame was black with red gold flame-shaped funnels fitted to the sides, crafted for him to channel his flame quirk through the instrument. The wood bore burn marks from past attempts. Beside it leaned a worn acoustic, strings slightly frayed, the fretboard darkened with years of use. These aren't just hobbies, she whispered. These are history. He hesitated, scratching his neck. I wrote music. Sort of. Before I had a quirk. It helped me cope. I figured, maybe fire could be something more than just destruction. Her eyes widened. Midoriya, that's beautiful. Bakuga, still grinning from the bed, jeered, go ahead, Deku. Play something. Impress your girlfriend. Izuku choked. Worry not. But Kyuka just smirked, cheeks pink. I dare you, flame boy. Suddenly bold, Izuku picked up the acoustic guitar and sat near the edge of the bed. Fingers trembling only slightly, he started to play. A soft, simple melody flowed out, nothing flashy, but warm. Hopeful. Kyuka stared, mouth parted slightly. You wrote that? He nodded, lost in the music. That's when the noise reached the downstairs. Wait a minute, Kyotoku said, ears twitching. Is that a guitar? Jirou stood. That's my girl's kind of noise. Within seconds, all 6 adults stood at the foot of the stairs, eavesdropping with cartoonish lack of subtlety. They heard Kyuka gasp, Izuku. Show me the flame guitar next. That thing is insane. Wait. Izuku stammered. It's not stable yet. It still channels heat into the strings and... Bakuga cackled. If it explodes, we'll know he was trying to serenade you. Kyotoku Jirou shrieked upstairs, play it or we're coming up. Laughter echoed through the walls. The camera would pull out slowly from the scene, 3 teens laughing, 6 parents smiling, the scent of breakfast drifting through the air. For the first time in weeks, there were no alarms, no villains. Just warmth. The warmth of the morning had long since faded by the time Izuku, Kyuka, and Bakuga stepped through the gates of UA that afternoon. Their wounds were mostly healed, though bandages peeked out from their collars and sleeves, marks of the battle they'd just survived. The campus hummed with life again, though something about it felt sharper now. Real. Students whispered about the USJ incident, glancing at the trio like they were soldiers returning from war. But the 3 ignored it. They didn't need praise. They needed normalcy, even if just for a day. Period 1, Hero Ethics Eraserhead. Aizawa stood at the front of the classroom, wrapped in his sleeping bag like a burrito of exhaustion. He barely blinked as he drawled. Since some of you decided to get nearly killed last week, we're doing a review of what not to do when encountering professional villains. Page 56. Read. Silently. Even Bakuga obeyed without complaint. The room was quiet except for the occasional whisper and the sound of textbooks flipping. Kyuka jotted notes beside Izuku, their desks a little closer now than usual. Their hands would brush, just barely, and one would blush while the other pretended it didn't happen. Period 2, Rescue and Evacuation Procedures. President Mick had toned himself down for the week, but only slightly. All right, my youthful protégés. Time to practice some rescue scenarios. They spent the class carrying dummies, extinguishing fake fires, and navigating collapsed hallways. Izuku used his flame-boosted feet to glide over debris. Kyuka amplified sonar pulses through her earjacks to locate survivors. Bakuga just blew a hole in a wall and carried his dummy out like a war hero. Tenya, exasperated, yelled, "That was structural, Bakuga." Bakuga just grinned. And now it's open concept. Lunch hour, cafeteria energy. The class 1 table was bustling. Izuku sat across from Kyuka, trying very hard not to stare at the way her earjacks swung when she chewed. She caught him once and gave a slight smirk. He coughed and stared hard at his tray. Akako leaned in beside him and whispered, "You guys are totally a thing, right?" Izuku choked on his miso. What? Kyuka arched a brow. You okay, hotshot? Bakuga snorted into his rice. He's combusting all right. Nerd fire. The others laughed. Even Todoroki smiled slightly from his seat, flicking ice shards into his soup to cool it. Final period, hero name selection Midnight's class. The atmosphere was different the moment Midnight entered the room. Her presence brought a dramatic flair, but there was sincerity behind her words. Hero names define your image. They're what the world will remember. So, choose wisely. She gestured to the whiteboard. One by one, each student stepped up to present their chosen name. Akako, Uravati. Shoto, Frostburn. Taida, Turbo. Zuyu, Froppy. Takoyami, Zukuyomi. Kyuka, Banshee. She said it with a proud grin, and Izuku applauded louder than anyone. Bakuga, King Explosion Murder. Midnight blinked. Absolutely not. Fine, he growled. Ground Zero. She paused. Better. Still violent, but passable. Izuku watched, heart thudding. Everyone had gone. The board was almost full. Just one slot remained. Midnight turned to him. Izuku Midoriya. You're up. He stood. Kyuka gave him a small, encouraging smile. He walked slowly to the front, exhaling once. The room was quiet. He turned to face them, hands behind his back, green curls shifting slightly. I've been thinking about this for a long time, he said softly. My quirk, it awakened from my mouth first. Fire. A small spark flickered on his lips. Then it moved to my feet. Movement. Escape. Passion. The sparks grew, spreading into a slow-burning flame that wrapped around his head like a halo of embers, framing his face in glowing orange. The class gasped. His voice deepened. A smirk danced on his lips, not cocky, but confident. I am the breath of fire. I am the soul that burns but does not consume. He opened his palm, and a small flame danced above it, flickering with the rhythm of his heartbeat. My hero name. He smiled wider, eyes catching Kyuka's for just a second. Is Salamander. The flame flared into the shape of a lizard's silhouette, then winked out. Silence. Then, applause. Slow, steady. Kirishima stood up and clapped. Mina joined in. Soon, the room was full of cheers. Kyuka sat back in her chair, stunned and starry-eyed. Bakuga muttered, dumbass, that was actually kinda badass. Midnight nodded slowly. Approved. Izuku walked back to his seat, cheeks pink, but posture proud. Kyuka leaned over. Salamander, ha. He rubbed the back of his head. Thought it fit. Mythical fire creature. Survives through the flames. Kinda like us. Kyuka gently pressed her earjack to his shoulder, just for a second. You're more than surviving, hotshot. You're becoming legendary. Night fell over Muzutafu. The warm laughter and chaos of the morning had quieted. Homes dimmed to a peaceful glow. But in 3 separate houses, each one carrying echoes of shared trauma, TVs were turned on, volume raised. A breaking news banner flashed across the screen. U.A addresses the USJ attack press conference live. Reporters' voices overlapped in a frenzy, flickering across the screen as cameras zoomed in on a modest stage set up inside U.A.'s main press hall. Behind the podium stood Principal Nezu, and beside him, tall and bandaged, was Shouter Aizawa, better known to the world as Eraserhead. Midoriya household living room. Izuku sat on the floor in front of the couch, knees tucked to his chest, still wearing his UA hoodie. Inko sat behind him on the couch, fingers nervously playing with the hem of her cardigan. She didn't speak, just placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. The screen flickered as a reporter yelled. Was this an inside job? How did the villains get in? Were any students killed? Where was All Might when the attack began? Nezu stepped forward, speaking calmly, cheerfully even. We've addressed all physical security issues. The safety of our students remains our top priority. But now, I'd like to pass the microphone to their homeroom teacher. Mr. Aizawa. The camera panned to him. Aizawa's eyes, half-lidded and bloodshot, narrowed just slightly. His voice was low, quiet, but cut through the noise like glass. You want the truth? He paused. Here's the truth. Jirou household upstairs loft. Kyuka sat on the floor of her music nook, knees hugged to her chest, one ear jack plugged into the TV audio and the other dangling against her leg. The room was dark except for the soft blue light from the screen. Kyotoku and Kyuzuke stood in the doorway, silent. A class of first-year students was in the middle of a rescue training exercise, Aizawa said. Villains infiltrated. They weren't there to take hostages. They came to kill All Might. Kyuka's breath caught. Her hand reflexively touched the bandage on her thigh. The weight of no Mu's roar echoed in her head. The flames. The screams. Her parents didn't move. These kids are only 15 and 16, Aizawa continued, voice rasping. But they didn't break. They stood their ground. They protected each other. They survived. Bakuga household kitchen TV. Bakuga leaned against the counter, arms crossed. His shirt was still damp from the shower, his hair wild and unkempt. The lights were off. Mitsuki stood behind him, not saying a word. Meizaru sat at the table, fists clenched. On screen, Aizawa's voice rang out again. They showed me, and the world, that they deserve to be here. That they're not just students. They're heroes in training. And if they're watching this. All three teams, in their homes, straightened up slightly. If any of our students are watching this, and I hope the whole world is. Aizawa's tone grew sharper, prouder. Then you'll see their strength firsthand. Because the UA Sports Festival is still happening. Gasps rippled through the press. Not as a distraction. Not as a cover-up. But because our students deserve to stand in front of the world and show who they really are. That's all. He stepped away from the podium. The camera cut to chaos, reporters shouting, camera flashes, speculation, but it faded into background noise. Back in the Midoriya house. Izuku turned to look up at his mom. He really said all that? Inko nodded, wiping her cheek quickly. He really did, sweetie. His fingers curled slightly. Flames didn't ignite, but his heart did. At the Jirou loft. Kyuka finally smiled, just a little. She turned to her guitar and plugged in the amp. Quietly, she strummed a low, solemn chord, a promise to herself. To be ready. To fight back, not with anger, but with everything she was becoming. In the Bakuga kitchen. Bakuga snorted softly. TCH damn straight we're still doing the sports festival, he muttered. I didn't almost get murdered to sit in a classroom. He looked at the screen one last time, eyes blazing. Bring it. The sun rose crisp and clear over the UA campus, casting golden light across the newly built dorm complex nestled between rows of training fields and walking paths. It was still early, but the buzz of anticipation electrified the air. Students gathered outside the glass-paneled building marked Class 1 A Dormitory Heights Alliance. The front door slid open with a soft whoosh. Izuku, as always, looked exhausted. He stood before the group in his capture scarf and dark coat, rubbing one eye. "All right, listen up," he said, voice gravelly. "This is Heights Alliance. Your new home until further notice." A pause. "You'll each have your own room. 4th floor, East Wing. Boys on one side, girls on the other. Kitchens, lounge, and training zones are shared." The class murmured with surprise and excitement. Kyuka tilted her head and elbowed Izuku gently. "Not bad. It's bigger than I thought." Izuku chuckled nervously, scratching his cheek. I kinda figured UA would go all out." Izuku continued. "You've got 3 hours to move your stuff in and make your room yours. Paint it. Personalize it. Make it a reflection of who you are." He gave them all a serious look. "Then we'll do a room tour. Each of you will show the others your space. It's not just fun, it's a chance to get to know each other as people. And..." His voice grew even drier. "Yes. There'll be a small competition at the end. Best room wins a week's worth of extra dessert credit. Don't get cocky." A few students immediately perked up. Bakuga smirked. Mina gasped. Taida adjusted his glasses sharply. Akako clapped with excitement. Kyuka glanced up at Izuku, her eyes narrowing playfully. "You better not be hiding some secret mural of All Might in your room." He laughed, then leaned slightly closer, smirking down at her from his slight height advantage. "You'll just have to wait and see, won't you?" That earned a light shove and a half-suppressed giggle from her. Montage, Move in Mayhem. As the students fanned out and claimed rooms, the dorm filled with the sounds of scraping furniture, paint rollers, and arguments over music choices. Akako floated boxes to her ceiling for storage. Kirishima set up a full-wall mirror with workout charts and motivational quotes. Bakuga aggressively repainted his walls black and red, grumbling as he duct-taped sparring pads to one corner. Mina turned her room into a bubble-gum pink explosion with disco lights and a lava lamp. Taida had already alphabetized his bookshelf by subject before anyone finished unboxing. Meanwhile, Izuku's room. His space was warm and unexpectedly stylish, dark charcoals and smoky grays with a small platform for meditation. 2 guitars rested on stands beside a corkboard covered in quirk analysis notes, pinned with red strings and labeled sketches. Above his bed hung a framed photo of him, Kyuka, and Bakuga after USJ, battle-worn, arms around each other, smiling tiredly. He lit a candle that smelled like cedarwood and backed up to admire it. "Kinda cozy goth," he muttered. Kyuka's room. Kyuka's space, across the hall, was sleek and sharp, purple acoustic foam on the walls, a shelf of vintage vinyl records, and her electric guitar plugged into a glowing neon amp that pulsed with her heartbeat when she connected her jacks. Above her headboard was a handwritten lyric banner, "Make noise until the world listens." There was a bass thump as she tested her subwoofer. Perfect. 3 hours later. The entire class gathered in the lounge, sweaty and proud. Aizawa leaned against the back of a couch, sipping coffee. "All right. Room tour. Let's go. Tour highlights. Mina's room looked like a candy shop mixed with a rave. Takoyami's was a black cavern with dramatic candlelight. This is where I commune with the darkness, he intoned. Ciro's walls were covered in comics and tape tricks. Taida's room felt like a library married a military academy. When it came to Izuku's room, murmurs of surprise spread through the group. Mina blinked. Dude. This is, like, hauntingly aesthetic. Kirishima nodded. Manly, but, like, brainy. Kyuka just leaned against the doorframe with crossed arms, a tiny smile tugging at her lips. Nice guitars, she said, pointedly. You gonna play sometime? Izuku scratched the back of his neck. Maybe, if someone duets. When the class got to Kyuka's room, jaws dropped. Holy crap, you've got a sound studio. Kaminari yelled. Bakuga muttered, too many wires. Izuku smiled in awe. This is who you are. Kyuka turned pink but just shrugged. Yeah. Music's home, you know. Aizawa's final announcement. After every room was viewed and debated, the class gathered in the lounge. Aizawa pulled a notepad from his coat. I was watching the whole time. The winner is... A dramatic pause. Kyuka Jirou. She blinked. Wait, seriously? Mina cheered. Yes, Queen. Izuku grinned. You earned it. Aizawa gave a rare, slight smirk. Now that you're all settled in, rest up. The sports festival is coming. And the world is watching. The sun rose slowly over ground beater, light glinting off scorched steel and cracked pavement. Heat shimmered in the air, not just from the rising morning, but from the clash of quirks already in motion. Izuku Midoriya stood at the center, barefoot in reinforced training gear, steam rising from his palms. His hands glowed a molten red, heat radiating like a forge. Behind him, Kyuka Jirou wiped sweat from her brow, her earjacks retracting as she panted. Across from them, Bakuga grinned wide, explosions dancing in his palms. Come on, imber-eared Bakuga growled, cracking his neck. That all you got? Izuku exhaled. A wisp of orange flame curled from his mouth. Not even close. Then he launched forward, fire bursting from his feet, propelling him like a missile. Kyuka followed, earjacks pulsing, bass boom cracking like a cannon. They trained hard, synchronized. Izuku's flame-based propulsion gave him agility few could match. In close, he'd activate his heated palms, delivering burning palm strikes that could melt thin steel. When at range, his fire breath would surge, short, controlled jets like a flamethrower, aimed with precise mouth control. Kyuka used him as a sound anchor, launching her waves while he softened the enemy front with fire. Bakuga countered with raw power, unfiltered blasts that tested both of their defense. Their sparring didn't stop until the field was scorched black. From a hidden platform, Aizawa crouched in silence, watching the battle unfold with a rare look of pride. Midoriya's control is improving. The quirk combination, it's volatile, but he's starting to own it. Nezu's voice crackled through the comm. Fire from the lungs, propulsion from the soles, and heat through the hands. That's quite the elemental lineage. He's his mother's compassion, Aizawa muttered. And his father's fury. Day 2 scorch and sound. Another round of sparring. This time, the trio added restrictions. No verbal communication. No overcharging quirks. 3 enemies, robot drones, released at random intervals. Izuku set fire traps using patches of synthetic oil to bait the machines. Kyuka pulsed the air to herd them into choke points. Bakuga, well, he just blew them up. After 2 hours, smoke clouded the zone. Izuku leaned against a half-melted wall, breathing hard. Flame licked out of his lips with every exhale. Kyuka walked up, hair singed at the ends. "You okay, hothead?" Izuku gave a tired thumbs up, palms still glowing a dim red-orange. "Yeah. Might have overcooked my feet, though." She smirked. "You're getting faster. It's like, your fire thinks for you now." Day 3 Heat Theory. No combat today. They gathered in the dorm lounge. Whiteboards up. Izuku scrawled with a marker while sipping a cooling electrolyte drink. Kyuka leaned over his shoulder, occasionally jabbing him in the ribs with her jack to get his attention. He'd mapped out how different students might respond to heat, fire, and flame-based tactics. Kaminari overheats quickly. Shuji, low fire resistance. Todoroki, a wild card. "What about you?" Kyuka asked suddenly. "Me? Yeah. What happens if your fire burns too hot?" Izuku paused. "My lungs seize. My feet cramp. I've got a window. If I pass 15 seconds of continuous flame, my breathing slows and the heat builds up inside." "So you're a furnace," she said softly. He smiled. "Yeah. A limited one." Day 4 Mandatory rest. Aizawa shut training down for the day. Izuku, Kyuka, and Bakuga had pushed themselves so hard they'd burned through the soles of their training gear. Morning garden stillness. In the dorm's back garden, sunlight streamed through the leaves. Kyuka and Izuku sat cross-legged, his breath visibly warm even in the open air. She pressed her jack gently against his palm. "Still warm," she muttered. "Can't help it," he smiled. "It simmers when I'm relaxed. Or focused." They meditated in silence, the only sound the birds and the faint crackle of residual heat around Izuku's hands. Then, she leaned against him casually, head brushing his shoulder. "You're not bad to sit next to in the cold." I am a portable space heater," he stammered. She snorted. "You're a human fire hazard." Afternoon fan club. From the dorm roof, Mina and Kaminari leaned over, snapping pics. "Kyuka's got herself a lava boyfriend," Mina whispered. Evening final firelight. That night, Kyuka found Izuku by the practice ring, holding his old acoustic guitar, fingers glowing faintly red as he strummed. The wood had scorch marks. "Didn't know you used your heat to play," she said softly. He nodded. "Warms the strings. Changes the tone. My dad did this, apparently, before he left." She sat beside him, pulling her own guitar into her lap. They played together. The melody echoed across Heights Alliance, soft, haunting, glowing with fire and feeling. As the last note faded, Izuku looked up at the stars. "You ready for the world to see us?" Kyuka bumped her shoulder into his. "With you and Kaken. I'm not scared. Even if my quirk backfires." She smirked. "I've got fireproof plugs." He laughed, warm smoke curling from his lips. Morning dawns of anticipation. 6:02 a.m. UA dorms. Silence blanketed Class 1. Blankets were tighter. Breath was shorter. The storm of nerves came in waves. Kirishima paced by the window, murmuring to himself. Mina chewed the tip of her sleeve. Taida performed kata-style stretches at machine speed. Even Todoroki stared at the floor, lost in some unfathomable spiral of thought. It was the morning of the UA Sports Festival. And no one felt ready. Not even Izuku Midoriya. He sat cross-legged by the balcony window, drinking cooled green tea. His hands glowed dim orange from internal pressure, his fire humming low and steady. This is the day, he whispered to himself. You trained. You survived the USJ. Now you show them. Footsteps behind him. A low grumble. Bakuga. His arms were crossed, jaw tight. They're scared. Izuku nodded, standing. Yeah. But we need them fired up. Bakuga cracked his neck. Then let's burn them awake. Common room 6:24 a.m. The class gathered slowly, yawns and jitters bouncing between the walls. Denki nervously sparked himself. Yurika stared into her mug of cocoa like it was an omen. Then the door burst open. Oi! Bakuga barked. Are you guys 1A or 1B today? Everyone froze. Because right now, he growled, you look like extras. A few chuckles broke through the anxiety. Then Izuku stepped forward, shoulders straight, voice steady. Listen up. He looked at each of them in turn. Even Todoroki met his eyes. We've been through hell already. Real villains. Near death. You know what that means. No answer. It means no one else in the stands today has done what we've done. We don't just belong at this festival, we've already earned the right to show the world what heroes look like when they are still becoming. His hands lit faintly, flame curling around his fingers. I'm not going out there to prove anything to the crowd. I'm going out there because I'm already standing. I survived. We survived. And now we burn bright, because this is what we were born to do. Silence. Then Zero shouted. Let's go. Chaos. Cheers. Arm pumps. Even Todoroki's lips twitched. Bakuga smirked, fists quietly exploding. All right, 1A, Izuku said. Let's light it up. UA Stadium opening ceremony. The sound of 60,000 voices cheering was like a wave crashing over the students as they stepped into the open light. The stadium was colossal. Banners flew. Drones zoomed above. Commentators' voices echoed across the walls. Class 1A marched as a unit. Izuku at the front, head held high. Kyuka beside him, calm, composed. Bakuga just behind, burning confidence in every step. Welcome to the 42nd Annual UA Sports Festival. Present Mick roared. Spotlights flickered across the field. This year's freshman class has already made history, and today, we see what they're really made of. The camera zoomed in on Class 1A. And leading this year's opening declaration. Katsuki Bakuga. Bakuga walked up to the podium, hands in his pockets. The crowd held its breath. I'm not here to make friends, he said, voice calm. I'm here to win. The stadium exploded into cheers, and excitement. And behind him, Izuku and Kyuka exchanged a grin. UA Stadium, starting gate corridor. The wind whipped through the open-air corridor behind the gate. Dozens of students stood shoulder to shoulder, muscles tense, quirks humming, eyes locked ahead. Class 1A stood together in the center, nerves buried beneath battle-tested grit. The giant metal gate separating them from the arena had begun to rattle. 3 years. I've dreamed of this exact moment, Izuku thought, shifting his weight from foot to foot. A tiny crackle of heat ran through his fingertips. He rolled his shoulders, inhaled deeply, fire curling faintly in his throat, and exhaled slowly through his nose, tiny wisps of smoke slipping out. This is no longer about belonging. It's about becoming. Beside him, Kyuka plugged one ear jack into her left boot, the other brushing against the floor. Footsteps ahead, she whispered. Robots. Heavy ones. Kyuka cracked his neck, his gauntlets already hissing. Bring them on. A loudspeaker boomed overhead. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. Round 1, the legendary obstacle course. The crowd's roar thundered in the distance. The gate shuddered. Participants, ready yourselves. Taida was sprinting in place, eyes laser-focused. Todoroki stood perfectly still, eyes mist clinging to his uniform. Zero stretched his arms wide. Mina bounced like she was at a concert. Kirishima cracked his knuckles, grinning wide. We're born for this. Let's go, Class 10. A soft buzz. Lights above them turned from red to yellow. On my signal, go. K-chunk. The gate blasted open. Instantly, a stampede of students surged forward like a tidal wave. Izuku blasted into the air, flames erupting from his feet. His boots weren't touching the ground, he was riding propulsion, weaving through students midair, already pushing ahead. Kyuka moved with tactical grace. Her ear jacks hit the ground every 2 steps, sending shockwaves to disorient those behind her. Sonic pulses launched weaker students off balance. Kyuka was an explosion incarnate, blasting forward with howling bursts, cackling. Move, losers. They hit the first obstacle fast. 3 massive combat robots loomed over the track. 50 feet tall, gleaming metal limbs, glowing visors. Their fists punched the earth, each step a quake. Screams echoed. Students scattered like ants. Todoroki didn't blink. He raised a hand, ice erupted from the ground, coating the robot's legs in crystal frost. Impressive, Izuku thought, watching from above. But he had no time to admire. The second robot swung. He twisted midair, fire burst from his heels, narrowly avoiding a sweeping claw. He flipped forward, landed on the robot's forearm, and slid down, palms glowing red hot. Let's melt this thing. With a roar, he exhaled fire in a tight blast across the robot's elbow joint, superheating the servos. The metal melted, joints crackling. The robot's arm froze mid-swing. Below, Kyuka screamed directly into her jacks, sonic resonance blasted up through the robot's legs. Cracks formed in its armor. Kyuka appeared midair and slammed a point-blank explosion into its visor. Boom! 1 robot down. The crowd went wild. Izuku landed, knees bending, hand slamming into the ground to break the fall. Steam hissed from his palms. He could feel it. The burn in his lungs. The fuel in his veins. The clarity of battle. This is what I was made for. Not to destroy, but to overcome. Kyuka appeared beside him, breathing hard. Midoriya, we're in top 5. Keep this up. You all right? Yeah. That robot shook my ribs a bit though, your turn to take the front. They sprinted side by side. Behind them, Class 1B scrambled to recover. Monoma was raging. Why are they always ahead? Pitfall, canyon, precision or death. They reached the second challenge, the pitfall zone. A stretch of broken terrain littered with illusion-shrouded chasms, one wrong step, and you fall into a padded but time-wasting abyss. No time to think, feel your way through, Kyuka whispered. Izuku nodded. He knelt, touched the ground, closed his eyes. Heat radiated from his palms in pulses, a crude sonar. Where heat sank or shifted unevenly, he mapped it in his mind. Follow me. Tight left. Jump in 4, 3. Now. They vaulted across a safe zone. Then another. Kaminari fell in behind them, then immediately into a pit. Why? Bakuga didn't even try to navigate. He blasted straight over the entire canyon in a fiery arc. Damn show off, Kyuka muttered. The sprawling UA stadium shifted and twisted, machinery groaning beneath the earth as towering walls rose from the ground. A colossal dome of reinforced glass encased the entire battlefield, trapping the combatants within a colossal gladiatorial cage. The field itself was a maze of urban ruins, toppled pillars, crumbling walls, rubble piles, narrow alleys, perfect for ambushes, sniping, and close-quarters brawls. The air buzzed with anticipation. Izuku stood alongside Kyuka near the starting point, both scanning the chaotic terrain. He felt a low fire ignite in his chest, a hunger to prove himself, not just as a survivor, but as a hero in bloom. The announcer's voice thundered through the stadium. Round 2 begins. Contestants will battle in pairs or teams as drawn. First to eliminate or force surrender advances. Izuku's heart pounded as the names flashed on the massive screen. His match, Izuku Midoriya and Kyuka Jirou vs Katsuki Bakuga and Shoto Todoroki. The crowd erupted. The ultimate class won a showdown. The 4 stepped forward, eyes locked. Bakuga's explosive aura crackled like a wildfire ready to consume. Todoroki's half-cold, half-hot calm masked a ferocity lurking beneath the surface. Kyuka's earphone jacks clicked into place, subtle vibrations charging the air. Izuku's feet flared with small flames, fingertips glowing faintly. The bell rang. Bakuga charged, launching a brutal explosion that shattered a nearby pillar. Izuku dodged, flames from his feet propelling him into the air, giving Kyuka cover to launch a sonic scream that rattled Bakuga's eardrums, momentarily disorienting him. Todoroki unleashed an ice spike barrage. Kyuka's jacks absorbed some blasts, sending back reverberations that fractured ice. Tactical shifts. Izuku landed, sweat dripping. We have to split their focus. Keep Bakuga on the defensive. Todoroki is precise. Kyuka nodded. She unleashed a piercing high-pitched screech aimed at Todoroki's eardrums. He winced but responded with a fiery wall to block. Bakuga recovered, grinning savagely. You're cute, Midoriya. But you're gonna get burned. He charged again, explosions underfoot sending shockwaves. Izuku's feet blazed as he dodged, countering with concentrated fire blasts from his hands. Both sides pushed their quirks to the edge. Izuku's lungs burned from holding steady control of his flame. Kyuka felt her vocal cords scream hoarse but precise, focusing her sonic pulses on strategic points. Bakuga's explosive power strained his stamina. Todoroki's icy blasts began frosting over the arena floor, threatening to freeze their footing. Turning point. Izuku spotted an opening, Bakuga's momentary overextension. With a burst of flames erupting from his boots, he surged forward, launching a precise flame jab aimed at Bakuga's ribs. Bakuga barely dodged, gritting his teeth. Simultaneously, Kyuka unleashed her most powerful scream yet, earphone jacks thrumming with raw sonic force, shattering nearby rubble and forcing Todoroki to shield his ears. The arena shook with clashing quirks. Flames roared. Ice cracked. Explosions thundered. Each student gave their all. The bell signaling the end of the match was a distant sound drowned beneath the storm of power. As smoke cleared, all four were panting, bruised, but standing. The judges declared. Match ends in a draw, both teams advanced due to their unyielding resilience and skill. The crowd exploded in cheers. Lunch break, fueling the fire. The cafeteria at UA was buzzing like a beehive on overdrive. Students from all classes filled every table, chatting excitedly about the battles so far. The tension from the arena had momentarily been replaced with hunger, and a frantic hunger at that. In the corner, the unmistakable trio of Class 1 sat shoulder to shoulder at a long table piled high with plates of steaming food. Mountains of rice, grilled meats, fried dumplings, fresh veggies, and spicy ramen bowls covered every inch of the tabletop. Izuku shoved a large dumpling into his mouth, flames flickering faintly at the corners of his lips, a sign of his simmering quirk energy. Kyuka sat poised but fierce, earphone jacks twitching as she took a huge bite of her own bowl of noodles. Bakuga, as usual, attacked his food like it owed him money, ripping through plate after plate of curry rice and yakitori skewers. Across the cafeteria, a crowd of first years, those who hadn't advanced past round 2, watched in awe, whispering among themselves. How are they eating all that? Don't they have to fight later? Aren't they nervous? What if they buff? I couldn't eat this much before a fight. Their eyes were wide, some even slightly queasy just looking at the amount on the table. Suddenly, Kyuka stood up, her voice clear and cutting through the murmurs. Please? Just shut it for a second. Heads turned as the room fell silent. Kyuka's eyes scanned the group, a mix of empathy and steel shining through. Yes, it's shocking how much we're eating. But our quirks use up a lot of stamina. This isn't just food, it's fuel for our bodies and our powers. You'd be wise to learn that. She gestured to the plates. So, just because you didn't make it to the third round doesn't mean you need to eat less or feel small about yourself. Be proud. You've been seen on TV. You've shown yourself to the world. A few of the younger students exchanged embarrassed looks. Kyuka sat back down, lifting a dumpling in her chopsticks. Now, enough talking. Fight me for this dumpling, Midoriya. Izuku grinned, eyes lighting with playful challenge. You're on, Jirou. Before anyone could blink, the two were laughing, each trying to grab the same dumpling with chopsticks, playful flames flickering from Izuku's fingertips and the faint buzz of Kyuka's jacks vibrating in the air. Bakuga snorted loudly from his side, shaking his head. You two are hopeless. The nearby students smiled, the tension breaking and the cafeteria alive with warmth and camaraderie. Lunch continued with lively banter, laughter, and a shared understanding that this moment of peace, fuel for the battles ahead, was just as important as any fight. The roaring crowd was a living beast, trembling in the stands of the colossal UA Stadium. Tens of thousands of eyes burned with anticipation, their collective breath held tight as two forces of nature faced off on the glowing field below. Inasa Yorashi stood like a storm incarnate, his dark hair whipping around his sharp, confident eyes. The wind curled around his body like a cloak, tendrils of invisible force bending the banners overhead in his presence. Across the field, Izuku Midoriya's boots kissed the ground lightly, faint flickers of orange flames licking his soles. His green eyes blazed with quiet determination. Every muscle tightened, every breath measured. He could feel the heat coiling inside him, waiting to ignite in a blaze that would prove himself beyond just a survivor. The starting whistle pierced the air. Inasa's arms shot upward in a sweeping arc, calling forth the first gale. The wind answered with a roaring howl, spiraling into massive slicing blades that tore through the turf inches from Izuku's feet. Izuku's heart hammered. His quirk stirred, small flames burst from his mouth in a precise, controlled burst, a steady stream of fiery sparks that danced like fireflies in the dark. His boots flared, propelling him backward in a smooth arc as he narrowly avoided the wind's deadly swipe. Keep calm. Control the flames. Izuku's mind echoed Bakuga's lessons. He twisted midair, flames spiraling from his hands as he launched a sweeping arc of fire. The flames clashed with the wind, sizzling and snapping as air and heat collided. Inasa's lips curved into a grin. You're not just a kid who spits fire. You've learned to control it. The wind surged, pushing Izuku back. But he planted his feet hard, flame bursts from his soles igniting the ground with a crackling roar that shot him forward again. The battle was a dance of extremes, roaring fire and cutting wind, force meeting force in a spectacle of power and precision. In the stands, Kyukujira's fingers twitched on her jacks, a subtle tremble of excitement running through her. Beside her, Bakuga's eyes burned with pride and challenge. Show him what you're made of, nerd. Izuku swallowed and nodded, feeling the weight of the moment settle deep inside him. Wind and flame met again, fierce and wild, but neither would yield. The wind screamed again, this time sharper, more precise, a razor slicing the air as Inasa's hands traced intricate patterns to channel the gusts like a conductor commanding an orchestra. The stadium's banners whipped violently, and dust rose in swirling mini-tornadoes around the edges of the field. Izuku felt the temperature drop instantly as the cold wind cut through the warmth radiating from his skin. His body instinctively curled tighter against the sudden chill, but his flames flared brighter in response, licking higher along his arms and trailing from his mouth in quick bursts. Control. Focus. Not just heat but the shape and flow of the fire. He adjusted his breathing, steadying the rhythm that fueled the flames, steady but powerful, turning his quirk from a chaotic blaze into a living weapon. With a shout, Izuku rocketed forward, his feet sparking small eruptions of fire on the turf beneath him. Flames streamed out behind him, propelling him faster than usual, a fiery comet hurtling toward his opponent. Inasa smiled, a flash of admiration hidden in his gaze as he raised both arms, summoning a gale that twisted and surged like a coiling serpent. The wind formed a whirling vortex in front of him, ready to strike. Izuku didn't hesitate. He clenched his fists and with a primal yell, expelled a concentrated burst of fire from his mouth, a stream of pure, scorching heat aimed straight at the swirling wind. The flames collided with the air currents, sparks exploding as they fought for dominance. The fire struggled against the relentless wind, but Izuku's control was precise. His flames danced and shifted to wrap around the vortex, attempting to suffocate and destabilize it. The crowd erupted in cheers and gasps. Inner thoughts, Izuku Midoriya. I can't just overpower this wind, it's too fast, too wild. But if I can use my flames to break its rhythm, I can create an opening. My feet, my mouth, everything's a weapon. This is more than just a fight. It's a test of control, a battle of wills. Inasa's expression hardened, eyes narrowing. With a sharp whistle, the wind split into razor-thin blades, shooting out like shrapnel. Izuku barely dodged, feeling a sharp sting as a blade grazed his arm, singeing the fabric of his sleeve. A burst of pain fueled his fire, hotter, brighter, but more unstable. He gritted his teeth and landed on the ground, the soles of his boots igniting in twin columns of flame that shot him upward and backward in a twisting flip. From above, he hurled a barrage of fireballs, each one spinning with controlled heat, targeting Inasa's approach paths. Inner thoughts, Inasa Yorishi. This kid isn't just fire and fury, he's a tactician. I need to outthink him, not just overpower him. If I can whip up a gale that disrupts his footing, then I take control. Inasa's body blurred as he launched himself into the air, his arms carving the air and sending a massive gust spiraling toward Izuku's feet. The flames beneath Izuku's boots flickered wildly, his balance teetered. With a sudden explosion of heat, Izuku spat a stream of flame backward, creating a wall of fire that slowed the gust and gave him space. The two circled, quirk and will clashing in a relentless ballet. The crowd's roar rose and fell like the wind itself, electrifying the air. From the stands, Kyukujira's voice was quiet but sharp beside Bakuga. He's controlling his flames like a pro. Bakuga snorted, eyes locked on Izuku. Damn right. Still has a lot to learn, but he's no joke. The battle raged on, each attack and counter-attack led with strategy and grit. Izuku's flames twisted and curled, not just for offense, but to heat the air and create pressure zones, trying to choke the wind's flow. Inasa's winds danced and sliced, forcing Izuku to adapt constantly, moving with fiery grace despite the chill. The wind screamed again, this time sharper, more precise, a razor slicing the air as Inasa's hands traced intricate patterns to channel the gusts like a conductor commanding an orchestra. The stadium's banners whipped violently, and dust rose in swirling mini-tornadoes around the edges of the field. Izuku felt the temperature drop instantly as the cold wind cut through the warmth radiating from his skin. His body instinctively curled tighter against the sudden chill, but his flames flared brighter in response, licking higher along his arms and trailing from his mouth in quick bursts. Control. Focus. Not just heat but the shape and flow of the fire. He adjusted his breathing, steadying the rhythm that fueled the flames, steady but powerful, turning his quirk from a chaotic blaze into a living weapon. With a shout, Izuku rocketed forward, his feet sparking small eruptions of fire on the turf beneath him. Flames streamed out behind him, propelling him faster than usual, a fiery comet hurtling toward his opponent. Inasa smiled, a flash of admiration hidden in his gaze as he raised both arms, summoning a gale that twisted and surged like a coiling serpent. The wind formed a whirling vortex in front of him, ready to strike. Izuku didn't hesitate. He clenched his fists and with a primal yell, expelled a concentrated burst of fire from his mouth, a stream of pure, scorching heat aimed straight at the swirling wind. The flames collided with the air currents, sparks exploding as they fought for dominance. The fire struggled against the relentless wind, but Izuku's control was precise. His flames danced and shifted to wrap around the vortex, attempting to suffocate and destabilize it. The crowd erupted in cheers and gasps. Inner thoughts, Izuku Midoriya. I can't just overpower this wind, it's too fast, too wild. But if I can use my flames to break its rhythm, I can create an opening. My feet, my mouth, everything's a weapon. This is more than just a fight. It's a test of control, a battle of wills. Inasa's expression hardened, eyes narrowing. With a sharp whistle, the wind split into razor-thin blades, shooting out like shrapnel. Izuku barely dodged, feeling a sharp sting as a blade grazed his arm, singeing the fabric of his sleeve. A burst of pain fueled his fire, hotter, brighter, but more unstable. He gritted his teeth and landed on the ground, the soles of his boots igniting in twin columns of flame that shot him upward and backward in a twisting flip. From above, he hurled a barrage of fireballs, each one spinning with controlled heat, targeting Inasa's approach paths. Inner thoughts, Inasa Yorishi. This kid isn't just fire and fury, he's a tactician. I need to outthink him, not just overpower him. If I can whip up a gale that disrupts his footing, then I take control. Inasa's body blurred as he launched himself into the air, his arms carving the air and sending a massive gust spiraling toward Izuku's feet. The flames beneath Izuku's boots flickered wildly, his balance teetered. With a sudden explosion of heat, Izuku spat a stream of flame backward, creating a wall of fire that slowed the gust and gave him space. The two circled, quirk and will clashing in a relentless ballet. The crowd's roar rose and fell like the wind itself, electrifying the air. From the stands, Kyukujira's voice was quiet but sharp beside Bakuga. He's controlling his flames like a pro. Bakuga snorted, eyes locked on Izuku. Damn right. Still has a lot to learn, but he's no joke. The battle raged on, each attack and counter-attack led with strategy and grit. Izuku's flames twisted and curled, not just for offense, but to heat the air and create pressure zones, trying to choke the wind's flow. Inasa's winds danced and sliced, forcing Izuku to adapt constantly, moving with fiery grace despite the chill. Izuku forced a steady rhythm, spitting rapid-fire jets of flame that curved and twisted through the air, trying to corral Inasa into a corner. The heat warred with the cold gusts, each moment a swirling maelstrom of clashing forces. But Inasa was fast, his eyes darting like a hawk's. With a sudden shout, he summoned a tempest that lifted him high into the air, leaving Izuku on the ground momentarily disoriented by the shift. The crowd gasped as Inasa dove, spiraling with the wind to deliver a crushing blow, but Izuku twisted mid-leap, boots igniting in a fiery burst that rocketed him forward, meeting Inasa's dive with a searing blaze that lit the air between them. Inner thoughts, Izuku. This is it. The moment to strike. I can't just react anymore, I have to take control. The wind tries to push me back, but I am fire, I burn forward. With a fierce roar, Izuku unleashed the full force of his flames, a blazing inferno spiraling outward from his body, heat shimmering in waves as the wind roared against the fiery onslaught. The two forces collided in a spectacular explosion of energy, sparks flying in every direction as the crowd erupted into a frenzy of cheers. The fiery inferno and the roaring tempest collided in an epic clash of elements, shaking the very ground beneath them. The stadium held its breath, every eye locked on the two combatants locked in their fierce duel. Inasa's piercing gaze narrowed as he pushed his quirk beyond limits, channeling all his wind into a devastating cyclone aimed to uproot and crush Izuku. The vortex twisted violently, sucking at the very heat that Izuku had summoned. Izuku's muscles burned from exertion, sweat mixing with soot on his brow. His lungs screamed for air, but he forced himself to steady his breathing, summoning the calm within the storm. His feet ignited with a blazing intensity, scorching the earth and launching him upward, higher than before. Flames spiraled from his mouth in controlled bursts, painting the air with trails of bright orange. This ends now. In the final moment, Izuku harnessed every ounce of control he had honed over months of training and hardship. With a battle cry that echoed over the roar of the crowd, he propelled himself forward like a meteor, flames trailing like a comet's tail, heat distorting the air in his wake. Inasa's wind lashed out desperately, but Izuku's fire twisted and curled, forming a blazing barrier that absorbed and shattered the gale. Collision point. Izuku closed the distance, landing a precise, blazing strike that blasted through the cyclone's heart. The wind shattered into scattered gusts, dissipating in the fiery heat. Inasa crashed to the ground, breathing hard, defeated but grinning with respect. Deku, Inasa said, pushing himself up with a laugh, "You're a hell of a fighter. Your control, I didn't expect that much from you." Izuku wiped soot from his cheek, breathing heavily but smiling. "Thanks. You pushed me to my limits, too." The crowd erupted into thunderous applause as the announcer's voice boomed. "And the winner of this match, Midoriya Izuku." Aftermath. Izuku's teammates rushed to his side. Kyuka clapped softly, eyes bright with pride. Bakuga's usual scowl cracked into a rare smile. "This kid's got fire, no doubt," Bakuga muttered, punching Izuku lightly on the shoulder. Izuku looked at Inasa, offering a hand. Inasa took it firmly, respect passing between them. The battle wasn't just a test of strength or quirks, it was a testament to will, growth, and the blazing spirit that defined a hero's journey. The stadium's energy shifted immediately as the spotlight turned to Bakuga Katsuki, fierce, brash, and utterly determined. The crowd buzzed with anticipation. The explosive nature of his quirk promised a fight full of raw power and unyielding will. His opponent stepped forward, a skilled and agile combatant from Class 1B known for precise hand-to-hand combat and a quirk that manipulates small-scale seismic tremors, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Bakuga's crimson eyes narrowed, a sharp grin twisting his lips. "You think you can shake me? I'll blow you to hell before you make a dent." The battle began with a thunderous roar as Bakuga detonated his palms, fiery blasts erupting with deafening cracks. The air burned, the smell of gunpowder sharp and electric. Opening salvo. Bakuga surged forward like a missile, the flames from his palms propelling him with deadly speed. His opponent responded with a low, resonant stomp, sending micro-tremors rippling through the ground, a tactic to unbalance Bakuga's flight path. The ground buckled beneath him, and Bakuga snarled, skidding midair but quickly righting himself with a controlled explosion from his feet. Inner thoughts, Bakuga. "No way some ground shakes are gonna stop me. Gotta keep the pressure on, hit fast, hit hard, and don't let them breathe." He launched a barrage of explosive punches, each strike sending shockwaves through the arena. His opponent dodged nimbly, weaving between blasts, countering with rapid stomps designed to fracture the earth under Bakuga's landing spots. Tactical shift. Realizing his opponent's evasive style, Bakuga smirked. It was time for a change-up. With a ferocious yell, he detonated a massive explosion beneath himself, rocketing into the sky with blinding speed. From above, Bakuga rained down fiery blasts in a spiral pattern, like meteor showers bursting on impact. His opponent raised arms defensively, but the sheer volume forced a stagger. Crowd reaction. The audience was on its feet, voices rising in a tidal wave of excitement. Bakuga's not holding back. "Did you see that blast? Close quarters combat." Bakuga landed with a controlled explosion, boots scorching the turf. His opponent charged, trying to close the distance quickly. But Bakuga met the charge head-on, a brutal exchange of fists and feet, sparks flying as quirk-powered strikes collided. Inner thoughts, Bakuga. I'm the strongest here. No way I'm losing. Gotta break through, crush their confidence. Bakuga's eyes burned with intensity, muscles coiling like springs ready to unleash. With a guttural roar, he unleashed his signature move, Howitzer Impact, detonating a massive blast from his right palm, sending his opponent flying backward into the arena wall. The impact cracked the stadium's barrier, drawing gasps from the crowd. The final move. Bakuga charged the blast once more, this time focusing his energy into a precise, explosive strike. His opponent scrambled to regain footing, but Bakuga's speed was unmatched. With a final explosive punch, the fight was over. Victory. Bakuga stood, chest heaving, eyes blazing with fierce pride. The announcer's voice cut through the roar. Winner by knockout, Bakuga Katsuki. The stadium lights dimmed slightly as the spotlight shifted to Kyuka Jirou. Calm and collected, her sharp eyes scanned the arena, taking in every detail. Her opponent, a fierce combatant from Class 1B wielding a quirk that manipulated magnetic fields, stepped forward, the air around them crackling faintly with static energy. Kyuka adjusted the earphone jacks dangling from her lobes, her quirk primed and ready, a perfect balance of sound and destruction. From the stands, Izuku sat tense, his green eyes locked on Kyuka. You got this. Stay sharp. His hands clenched, fire flickering faintly at his fingertips, a nervous habit when he was worried but confident in her. Opening moves. The battle began with Kyuka's voice, not a scream, but a controlled, powerful note that rippled through the air. Her quirk, earphone jack vocalist, emitted a low-frequency sonic wave, disrupting her opponent's magnetic quirk, causing sparks and a crackling interference. Her opponent countered, manipulating metal shards embedded in the arena floor, launching them with deadly precision. Kyuka's eyes flicked to her surroundings, calculating trajectories. Tactical sound play. She struck a sharp chord on her electric guitar, flames surging from its strings, amplifying her sonic waves into bursts of fiery sound that sliced through the metal projectiles. The crowd roared, captivated by the unique blend of music and power. Inner thoughts, Kyuka. Focus on the rhythm, disrupt their flow. Izuku's fire and my sound, together, we're stronger. Izuku's support. From the stands, Izuku whispered encouragement, watching for openings. Now, Kyuka. Use the high-pitched scream, overload their senses. Kyuka nodded subtly, channeling a piercing note that rattled the arena, disorienting her opponent. Close combat. Using the moment, Kyuka closed the distance, switching to rapid, staccato bursts, sonic pulses amplified with controlled flames from her guitar strings, striking with precision. Her opponent struggled, magnetic pulses faltering against the onslaught of sound and heat. The climactic finish. Kyuka raised her guitar, strumming a powerful, blazing chord that sent a wave of fiery sound crashing forward. Her opponent was caught in the blast, knocked back, quirk faltering. The crowd erupted as Kyuka stood victorious, guitar smoke curling around her. After the fight, Izuku rushed down the stands as Kyuka caught her breath. Their eyes met, a moment charged with mutual respect and unspoken feelings. You were incredible, Izuku said softly. Kyuka smiled, cheeks flushed. Couldn't have done it without you yelling from up there. Bakuga's gruff voice interrupted, ha. Finally, some teamwork. The arena. The air was already chilled before the match began. Shoto Todoroki stood still as stone, one hand clenched at his side, the other gently open, cold mist curling around his fingers. Across from him, fists raised in anticipation, was Tetsu, the human embodiment of steel and grit from Class 1B. His skin shimmered like polished metal, reflecting the sunlight and casting sharp glints into the crowd. The arena was wide and flat, no obstacles, no cover. Just open ground. The perfect setting for two juggernauts. From the stands, the class leaned forward. This was a fight no one wanted to miss. Izuku's POV, from the crowd. Todoroki, he's still holding back that left side. Izuku's eyes narrowed as cold mist rose across the arena. He still hasn't used his flames. Beside him, Kyuka whispered, that steel guy's strong. But Todoroki's ice, that's something else. Opening moves. Midnight gave the signal, and the match began. Tetsu didn't wait, he charged forward, bellowing, let's go, icy hot, with fists gleaming in the light. Todoroki responded instantly, slamming his right foot down. A massive wall of jagged ice erupted from the ground, surging forward like a tidal wave. But Tetsu didn't stop. He punched through the ice, his metal skin cracking the frozen wall with raw power. Ice shards exploded in every direction. Todoroki raised another wall. Tetsu shattered it. Clash of Titans. For every ice barrage, Tetsu met it with brute force. His body steamed from the cold, but he pushed through, determination fueling him. Todoroki's eyes narrowed. He raised his hand and a long lance of ice extended like a spear. With deadly precision, he launched it. Tetsu barely ducked in time, the lance grazing his shoulder and slamming into the far wall of the stadium. You gonna just keep hiding behind ice, Todoroki? Tetsu shouted. Fight me for real. Todoroki's face twitched, a flicker of emotion, frustration, guilt. Todoroki's inner struggle. I could end this in seconds. One blast of fire and he'd be down. But, no, I won't use it. Not his power. I'm not him. I'm not my father. The right side of his body pulsed cold again. Frost formed on his cheek as he released another torrent of ice, encasing Tetsu in a spiked barrier. Tetsu's resolve. But the steel fighter didn't back down. With a mighty yell, his fists glowed with kinetic energy, and he punched through the frozen wall. Ice exploded. The crowd gasped. He rushed forward, closing the distance in a blur, and slammed a metal-coated fist into Todoroki's chest, sending him sliding back several meters. Todoroki coughed, clutching his ribs. The blow had landed, and it had hurt. The breaking point. Todoroki's back hit the arena wall. His breath visible in the frozen air, his expression cold and distant. But something shifted in that moment. He saw Izuku in the crowd, watching. Not judging, not pushing, just understanding. You can't be afraid of who you are, or what's inside you. The flame awakens. Todoroki's left side shimmered faintly, a flicker of heat. Tetsu charged again, ready for another steel strike. Todoroki whispered, sorry. And then the air erupted in fire. A wave of scorching flame burst from Todoroki's left side, not wild and uncontrolled, but focused. Refined. Tetsu's charge was stopped cold, or rather, stopped hot, as the fire blasted across the arena, pushing him back. His metal skin hissed and steamed. He braced himself but dropped to one knee, panting. Todoroki didn't follow up. He simply stepped forward, calm and centered. This is my power. All of it. The finishing blow. With one swift motion, Todoroki froze the ground beneath Tetsu, locking him in place, and released a controlled burst of fire above his head. Steam rose, the contrast of ice and fire overwhelming his opponent's endurance. Tetsu gritted his teeth, and collapsed. Midnight raised her hand. Victory, Shoto Todoroki. Aftermath. The crowd roared. Todoroki turned without celebration, walking back toward the waiting area. From the stands, Izuku watched quietly, a small smile forming. He finally used it. Beside him, Kyuka nudged him gently. He's starting to accept who he is. Just like you. Bakuga, arms crossed behind them, snorted. About damn time, Ice Prince. Pre-match tension waiting room. The stadium outside pulsed with energy. The echoes of previous battles reverberated through the steel walls of the waiting area. Izuku Midoriya sat alone, guitar pick between his fingers, slowly spinning it, not to play, but to focus his breathing. On the far bench, Todoroki leaned forward, one hand resting on his knee, his gaze cold and unreadable. Neither spoke. Then, quietly, Izuku said, "You finally used your fire." Todoroki looked up, startled. "You saw?" Izuku nodded. "You're more than your father's power. It's your quirk too. It's you." Todoroki's eyes narrowed slightly, thoughtful, conflicted. The arena, roar of the crowd. Present Mick's voice boomed across the stadium as the next match was announced. "Our next battle is what you've all been waiting for. Two of the highest scorers in the sports festival, the Emerald Flame of Class 10, Izuku Midoriya, versus the Ice and Fire Prodigy, Shoto Todoroki." The crowd erupted. Fireworks burst over the stadium. Both boys stepped onto the field. Izuku's boots sparked softly with fire at the soles. His coat flared gently behind him, his dark punk goth aesthetic sharp against the pale sun. Todoroki's breath misted in front of him, his right side already glowing with cold mist, his left arm warming faintly with hidden flame. Their eyes locked. No anger. No hatred. Only respect. And purpose. Midnight's signal. Begin. Todoroki didn't hesitate, a massive wall of jagged ice burst from his feet, racing forward like a frozen tsunami. Izuku countered immediately, two blasts of flame from his feet, propelling him into a high flip, narrowly avoiding the spike of ice that shot skyward. Midair, he opened his mouth. A small controlled jet of flame fired downward, melting the upper layer of the ice and propelling him higher still. From the crowd, Kyuka's eyes widened. He's using his fire to maneuver, like Bakuga's explosions, but smoother. Bakuga scoffed but didn't deny it. Phase 1, Aerial Combat. Izuku came down hard,